Welcome to Group 2's presentation, Team Building and Organization Development Challenge. The organizational development project we chose to present is focused on an organization within the satellite television industry that employs over 25,000 employees. Within this organization are two teams, commercial sales and commercial operations. These teams are supposed to work together but have objectives that put them at odds. The objective of the sales team is to meet sales quota through indirect sales to hotels, hospitals, bars, and restaurants. The objective of the operations team is to protect the company's assets through financial responsibility. These two teams have unsuccessfully worked together for the last few years, and while the organization's executives feel it's getting better, feedback from lower levels of the organization indicate that this is not the case. The reason for the lack of collaboration among these two teams is attributed to lack of trust, animosity, and poor communication, which is keeping the teams from performing together at a high caliber level. The goal of this organizational development project is to improve the working relationship between the sales and operations team to improve trust, communication, team building, and process improvement. We want to create a collaborative and cohesive work environment. To effectively market our consulting services as internal consultants, it's imperative that the business recommendations we present align with the strategic goals of the organization. Understanding our value proposition is the first essential step in marketing our services as internal consultants. To market our services, we need to build a collaborative, teamwork-oriented environment. We first need to demonstrate the skills, expertise, and behaviors that will make us proficient in this area and the benefit that we will provide to the organization. We will market our ability to increase sales, decrease turnaround time on operational approvals, increase customer satisfaction, reduce errors, improve the retention of top talent, improve scores on employee engagement surveys, and our agility to sustain developments during the growth and change of the organization. The following competencies utilize the company's cultural statement to assist with buy-in from the clients. Pride, having a strong belief in the company culture and brand. Adventure, the willingness to try new performance improvement methods and the ability to adapt quickly to change. Winning, the passion to help raise the bar on performance and the achievement of team and overall organizational goals. Energy, maintaining positive, enthusiastic, and motivating energy. Intelligence, the ability to find multiple solutions to a problem and determine how to prevent issues from reoccurring. And being results-oriented, working diligently to achieve success. A central question that needs to be appropriately defined during the entry and initial phases of this consulting project is who is our client. Differentiating between client types is instructive to us as consultants as we deal with more than one part of the client system. With this particular problem, we are trying to build collaboration and teamwork among the sales and operations teams, and some parts of our client types may not have the same needs or expectations. Our contact client is the VP of each team, sales and operations. These VPs are our initial points of communication for the organization. Our intermediate clients are the 70 employees that work within the sales and operations teams. These employees are included in meetings and provide data that is gathered during the course of the engagement. Our primary clients are the VPs of each of the teams. These VPs have responsibility for the team building problem that we're working to address. Our unwitting clients are the departments outside of the sales and operations teams that will be affected by process changes or who will be asked to change interactions. These may include other departments in the organization, such as accounting, auditing, marketing, IT, etc. Our indirect clients are unknown to us as consultants at this time, but we recognize that they exist and are conscious that they are stakeholders in the outcome of this problem. And finally, our ultimate client is both the commercial sales and operations groups, as well as the company they operate within. They consist of a larger system or organization. Through the contracting phase with the primary client, we develop an agreement with the client on the work to be performed. This process allowed us to discuss mutual expectations, clarify roles, and set expectations about the work to be done by both parties. We also obtained buy-in from the VPs of each of the departments. This buy-in allowed us to move forward with the change project. We then scheduled a follow-up meeting to determine the key objectives, how we would measure success, and the value of the project to the organization. With this information, we created an informal proposal that outlined everything we discussed, as well as start and end dates, the methodologies we have chosen to use, and a clear explanation of our role and their roles in the process. These notes from our meetings were then sent to each VP via email so they could review the contract at their will, and it also allowed us to track any requested changes. What worked well during this contracting process is that we were able to define roles early on, and also that we were able to document our conversations so they could easily be referenced in the event that any confusion arose or if any modifications needed to be made. One of the items that we would have modified during the contracting process is that we would have liked to have had more engaged conversations with stakeholders up front to try and determine the scope of the project from a perspective other than that of the VPs. Data gathering and analysis is necessary to understand the extent of the conflict between the sales and operations team and to identify the areas for improvement to ensure that we are providing the most value to these departments as well as the organization as a whole. The data that is needed to understand this includes the perception of the leaders about the groups, processes, policies, roles, and responsibilities. We also need to understand how the employees within these departments feel about the company as a whole. To collect this data, we will use multiple methods which will allow for the verification and consistency of the data gathered. By utilizing interviews with managers and supervisors of both teams, we will gain a better understanding of the business and the perspective at that level. The advantage of gathering data from these interviews is that it will allow us the ability to understand the person's experience and to follow up on areas of interest that are brought up or discussed during the process. We will also utilize a snowball method so that managers and supervisors can let us know who else they feel that we should be speaking to get further insight and information. Following interviews, we would also conduct focus groups. Focus groups are a valuable method of data gathering for us because it will allow small numbers of organizational members to participate in group discussions. These group discussions will allow the participants to build on one another's ideas and allow them to brainstorm, discuss, and debate. We will also gather the results from our latest employee engagement survey. This will be an excellent source of data for what is going well and what isn't within the operations and sales team. Depending on the data we receive from the employee engagement survey, we may choose to also conduct an additional survey that is geared more specifically towards the interaction between the sales and operations teams. Depending on the information and data gathered from all of these methods, we may also choose to perform job observations. For example, if some of the concern is coming from system problems or are creating customer issues, we could really benefit from going out in the field to see how these issues are affecting employees and customers. And finally, unobtrusive methods such as gaining access to organizational charts, project scope documents, standard operating procedures, and databases would be used to increase our working knowledge of the team. We are very fortunate to have access to the various data collection methods discussed. This is one of the great benefits of being internal consultants. To analyze the data collected, we will complete inductive analysis where we will pull out the key themes and categories based on the data we've gathered. Since the majority of the feedback is going to come from qualitative methods such as the interviews and focus groups, it would be most beneficial to interpret comments and categorize this data into major themes. The company we're contracting for has a language and culture all of its own, so allowing the observations to determine this model, and not the other way around, would be very useful to us. This method will allow us to acquire clarity and understanding by distilling and organizing the information we've gathered. This will help to ensure accuracy and integrity in our quality of data. In addition, there will be data available from surveys that will be analyzed statistically. The engagement survey already in process will be analyzed by the administering company, and the data will be provided to us. For any additional surveys conducted, we have access to and a basic understanding of statistical analysis databases, such as SPSS. Also, there is an assessment specialist at the company who can help us analyze and interpreting the data. Observational data and data collected through unobtrusive methods can also be categorized and coded for analysis. These methods are the best analysis options for us because they will allow us to present well-rounded findings based on the various data gathering methods we utilize. The qualitative data establishes a means of validating information for others to interpret and understand. If we don't categorize and code all of the qualitative data, it may be perceived that we are making decisions impartially or not addressing the real issues. By being able to show a paper trail of how things were created or quantified will help us to create rigor in our work. The biggest weakness that might be found in our data is that the initial questions we're asking are based on assumptions. We're assuming a lack of trust, animosity, and poor communication are problems. That means the questions we ask already have a bias built in, and we really need to be open to other possible explanations. Also, we've described using interviews, focus groups, observations, 2 different surveys, and unobtrusive methods. This is a lot of data to interpret, categorize, and code. There could be a lot of information that is irrelevant or could overwhelm this process. The best way to handle and limit these weaknesses is by asking for help. We should have at least one person assisting us who is experienced in data collection and analysis. A qualified person with no preconceived notions about these teams or the project could be extremely useful in interpreting data. Also, we believe it would be beneficial to analyze data at each stage and determine the appropriate way forward. We need to be certain that in each stage the focus could change, making certain types of data gathering more or less relevant. There are several important factors to consider when providing feedback to our clients. To maximize the likelihood that the clients will receive and understand the feedback and also be motivated to take action, we will schedule a feedback meeting that is set up for success by creating an environment in which exploration of issues, learning, and action planning are possible. This organization development project involves teams that report up through 2 different management chains. To provide feedback, we will start by giving them feedback separately, especially the feedback which involves concerns with management in the organizations or themselves. We would then like to bring them together to discuss the larger group issues and items that relate to both teams. We generally like to begin the feedback meeting by providing positive data and feedback first. Doing so will encourage the client to accept and appreciate the organization's strengths. After that, we present the major themes of the feedback, ensuring that the topics chosen are relevant, influenceable, and specific. We would prefer to have some quantitative and qualitative data available to support each theme and help them to understand the context. These 2 teams currently have missions that conflict with each other. Again, the sales team's goal is to maximize activation, while the operations team's goal is to protect the company financially. We would like to try and frame feedback in such a way that it appeals to both sides of the organization and doesn't create reluctance or animosity. All feedback will be given using neutral, non-threatening language. Descriptions and examples will be free from assumptions. As far as the time of our meeting, often during the workday, these individuals are too busy to set aside the time that they would need to meet with us. We probably end up getting half an hour to an hour time slot shoved between other meetings, which would leave them distracted. For that reason, we prefer to meet with them in the evening after work hours, perhaps a dinner meeting after everyone has gone home and the distractions are limited. We would select a neutral location like a smaller conference room with a round table to provide the feedback to the clients. This will ensure they can remain uninterrupted by both people and email. This feedback meeting will be essential to review the findings of our data. We expect that our data will confirm that conflict exists between these 2 departments due to competing objectives and a lack of communication and collaboration between the 2 departments. Our clients participate in this organizational development project by being bought into and approving the initial project. They also participate in all aspects of the data collection, either by participating themselves or by allowing access to other employees for additional data collection. They were also active participants in the feedback and diagnosis process and worked collaboratively with us to determine action plans. After reviewing our project in its entirety, we see the following as opportunities for improvement if we were to engage in this project again. First, we would refine the contract process to better align client expectations with possible outcomes. For example, stakeholders may identify issues that the primary client never thought would come up. Are they open to stakeholders setting action plans on all issues that arise? And how willing would the primary clients be to engage other groups if it turns out that key relationships are a problem? Also, we would spend more time on the front end focusing on the relationship and understanding the scope of the project. When working as internal consultants, it's easy to assume a certain level of trust. However, engaging with the team from an OD perspective is very different than engaging with them from an HR perspective. Also, speaking with more stakeholders up front will help us establish the scale and feasibility of what we might tackle. Issues that we're aware of and problems that the clients perceive may only be a piece of the pie. Thank you for viewing our presentation from Group 2.